Yeah, I've been by it. It's bad, but it's a non-contributing house.
Okay, we're ready to start.
Not
Good evening. Please turn off your phones. Welcome to the May 1st, 2024 regular meeting of the Eureka Springs Historic District Commission. I'm Dee Bright, Chair. Commissioners present tonight are Christine Sanamore, Susan Daniel, and Debbie Davis. We have a quorum for business. The Eureka Springs Historic District Commission is empowered by the Eureka Springs Municipal Code to issue a certificate of appropriateness for alterations or exterior architectural features, demolition and new construction within the boundaries of Eureka Springs Historic District. The HDC uses the Eureka Springs Historic District Guidelines and the U.S. Department of Interior Standards for the rehabilitation of historic buildings as the basis for our decision. The Commission can take the following actions on an application: approval with modifications, denial, or deferral for more information. Appeal of denial may be made to the Circuit Court. Public comments will be heard on each agenda item as it is called. Each person may make one comment. Other public comments will be heard during the public comment period. Are there any changes or additions to tonight's agenda?
I just have one minor one. If we could change the March 7 minutes that have been submitted for approval from a regular meeting to a special meeting.
Do we need a motion on that? Do we need a motion on that?
No, I think we can just change it and then vote on it.
Because well, we're going to approve the agenda, so we're just changing we're making that change, and we haven't voted on the agenda yet. So I think we're okay.
Okay.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? So moved.
Second.
Debbie made the motion. Christine made the second. All in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed say no. Okay. We may have to run upstairs and ask somebody to quit hammering or whatever they're doing.
Excuse me, Kyle, did we have a consent agenda?
There was no consent
Okay.
agenda tonight, no.
Okay. We have no old business. I need to read this. Approval of applications does not excuse applicant's owner or agent from compliance with any other applicable codes, ordinances, or policies of the City of Eureka Springs. Okay, now we have no old business. New business is 35 Steel, a level 3 Drollinger owner. New construction of 30 by 14 foot concrete retaining wall, approximately 4 foot to 8 foot tall, with stone facade to provide street level parking area. And Kyle, do you want to read the letters, or do you want us to take turns reading the letters?
So a couple of these have some photos, so I'll read those first and then just pass that around for you to look at while I read the others onto the record. The first one is from, to Historic District Commission regarding Troy Drollinger application for construction of parking structure at 35 Still Street. Dear members of the Commission, I'm writing to express my strong disapproval of Mr. Drollinger's proposed new parking structure to be constructed next to Hatchet Hall Carey Nation Home. As the owner of 31 Still Street, located a few feet from the proposed parking structure, I will see the concrete structure every time I look out my front door, my living room window, my den, my kitchen, and my screen and porch. The value of my property will certainly be reduced. No one wants to live next to a parking lot. Beyond the obvious aesthetic objections, I have serious concerns about the environmental impact of the project. Every action has a consequence. Mr. Drollinger's scope of work indicates the concrete structure would be 15 feet deep by 30 feet wide, with a depth from 4 to 8 feet. In addition, there would be 3 retaining walls and stone facing around the sides of the structure, and presumably up to 3 motor vehicles parked on top. That is a very considerable weight to be added to a steep hillside. Have any studies been performed by certified environmental engineers to determine whether the proposed structure will destabilize the steep hillside above Water Street? It should be noted that in addition to the retaining wall at the edge of Still Street, there are 3 more retaining walls on the slope above Water Street to prevent the collapse of the hillside. I'm concerned that even Still Street might be in danger of collapse if this structure is built. 42 years ago, Eureka Springs was designated as Tree City USA. This designation is proudly displayed in City Hall by the Arbor Day Foundation. Mr. Drollinger has cut down a tree in anticipation of construction of the parking structure, and this leaves not a single tree surrounding the Carrier Nation House. Now it might be called the concrete jungle. The Carrier Nation House is one of the most famous houses in Eureka Springs. It is on the Eureka Rocket Tour, the Walking Tour, and the Self-Guided Tour, and prior to COVID pandemic, the Ghost Tour. The construction will tear up the street for the entire summer during the tourist season. Now treeless with a large concrete parking pad, the historic character of the Carrier Nation home would be greatly diminished. Over the years, a number of people have resided at 35 Still Street. One parking space is always sufficient. Then last year, Mr. Drollinger added a second space after receiving approval, he said, from the commission. What is the reason that more spaces are suddenly needed? The proposed structure, as pictured in the application, immediately reminded me of a World War II bunker as pictured in the photo at left. It will be a blight on the whole neighborhood. The goal of the Eureka Springs Historic District Commission is to preserve and protect the architectural and natural beauty of Eureka Springs. How will the structure further the commission's mission? For the reasons given above, I am asking the commission to deny Mr. Drollinger's application. If, despite those reasons, the commission is inclined to approve the application, I ask the decision be delayed until an environmental impact report can be completed certifying that the proposed structure would not destabilize the hillside. Perhaps the commission members would consider visiting the site of the proposed project to see for themselves what a deleterious effect it would have on the neighborhood. Thank you for your kind consideration of this matter. Very truly yours, Maureen Beckman, owner of 31 Still Street for 24 years. And then she wanted me to pass that around so you could see that photo. She also sent the supplement with it. Dear members of the commission, I've attached 4 photos which I believe will help you see how the construction of the parking lot would affect the beautiful Still Street and historic Carrier Nation home. The photos in here, she gives a description of what the photos are of. They are a little bit difficult to see. So I'm also going to pass around, I printed out the same pictures and marked and shaded where the markers are, showing where the structure is proposed to be located. Next one is, Kyle, would you please read this into the record at tonight's meeting? An out-of-state investor has purchased the historic Hatchet Hall with the intention of chopping it up into several apartments. To this end, he has surreptitiously removed a 50-inch diameter legacy shade tree that has shaded Still Street for the last century, ostensibly to provide additional parking for his future renters. The long-suffering residents of Eureka Springs are finally fed up with the commercialization and degradation of our once charming and historic residential neighborhoods on the behest of out-of-state absentee landlord wannabes. We want to be known for our shaded streets and wraparound porches, not clear-cut barren plots with wraparound parking lots. An appropriate action would be the city would be to levy hefty fine for violating the tree ordinance and require the retaining wall to be rebuilt in its current and historically appropriate location. R.J. Josephine, 60 Still Street. Next one is, Kyle, I would like this letter to be read into the record at tonight's HDC meeting. This is a letter of opposition regarding the proposed parking lot at 35 Still Street. The owner had a huge antique, healthy shade tree cut down with no notice to the neighbors, no tag, no mailed notice, using the excuse it was compromising the rock wall. But it wasn't. The rock wall entry had been used for many years and wasn't going anywhere. Just ask the neighbor next door, Maureen, whose house it also shaded, or any of us who walk Still Street every day. The entire neighborhood and beyond is livid about this. They had it cut down before anyone could even protest. When we came up on the scene, the tree had already been cut and evidence was being ground up. Upon questioning, the tree service tried to tell us it was dead when clearly it was not, considering the green leaves and live trunk all over the street and in the grinder. They must think us blind and dumb. The dishonesty is very telling, so we documented it, attached those photos showing the green leaves, live branches and trunk with no signs of disease or damage being ground up in the grinder, the width of the trunk, which was 50 inches, the churned up rock wall, the huge emptiness it left after it was cut. Now the owner is applying to put in a parking lot, and I believe it says in the code book that if trees are to be removed in anticipation of construction for which a permit is required, all documents required under the city's zoning ordinances, as well as any drawings, plans, blueprints required by building inspector, shall be submitted to and approved by the building inspector before any tree is removed. I've also attached that page from the code book. We believe this is just another example of an inconsiderate, greedy absentee landlord taking advantage of the charm of Eureka to make money and then proceed to cut the charm down. So we would like the owner fined for cutting down a perfectly fine community shade tree because it wasn't his tree to cut down. He should have to build back the rock wall that they tore down when they cut the tree and plant more trees. Ironically, there is a dead tree still standing right behind the one he cut down. Another tree on the other side of the property got butchered also. This isn't a suburban Dallas. The parking here is limited, and if you don't like that reality and you can't be respectful of your neighbors and our historic neighborhood and its natural resources, then don't buy here. The lack of protocol, code enforcement, and thoughtful process on both sides around here is rampant, and we are tired of seeing the destruction of our beautiful neighborhoods because of it. We hope the Commission takes all of this into consideration and acts accordingly. Thank you, Steph Gordon Glassford, 23 Hill Street. This one has photos with it also, I'll pass around. Next one, Commissioners, Hatchet Hall, steeped in history, we all know the story. Located in a quiet neighborhood lined with redbuds, Hatchet Hall remains the same as it did in the early 1900s. The appeal of our quaint town is defined by structural landmarks, colorful citizens, and abundant springs. The ambient of 35 Still Street should be preserved and not denigrated by a 3-car parking area. Still Street is part of the Little Lake Eureka Cave Springs Reserve and Douglas Street Loop walking tour. A short distance from Hatchet Hall is Little Eureka Springs, maintained by Parks. It is a peaceful location for visitors and locals alike. Recently, the spring was refurbished with a picnic table and gravel. Parking has always been available at the spring. Due to topography, the large parking area will definitely change the landscape and be an eyesore. A beautiful mature shade tree that has already been cut at the entrance to the proposed parking area. The home next door, 31 Steel, opens towards the proposed parking area. For over 100 years, reasonable parking has been available for Hatchet Hall, and those spaces are still available as I write. I hope the Commission will take into consideration my opposition to changing the character of the historic home and neighborhood with a large proposed parking area. My property adjoins 31 Stills and 35 Stills on the west. Thank you for volunteering to protect Eureka Springs. Sincerely, Karen Mills, 29 Douglas Street. Next one, to whom it may concern, we appreciate the opportunity to provide input on the proposed creation of an additional parking area at 35 Still Street, Hatchet Hall, just across the street from our property. Because of a scheduled surgery, one of us is in Little Rock on the morning of May 2nd, and we cannot be in Eureka Springs to attend the meeting of the Historic District Commission to voice these questions, so we are submitting them in advance in writing. We did not plan to watch the streaming video of the meeting and hope that some of our questions about the project are answered by the presentation and Q&A. If a decision is delayed, we anticipate being able to introduce more definitive views on the project, but the written proposal leaves a significant number of unanswered questions that limit our ability to fully state an opinion at this time. As reflected in the notice, the proposed parking area effectively will create retaining walls on 3 sides of the 30 by 15 area to keep the parking area at street level despite the downward slope of the lot. These walls will be 4 to 8 feet high per the plans. While we support reasonable additional parking, we share concerns of other neighbors regarding the scale of this project. Our questions and accompanying comments are as follows. Could the 6 feet width of existing parking area along the street be included in the 30 by 15 dimensions? If the existing parking is incorporated into the new plans, it would require a smaller retaining wall structure to extend into the yard. With the completion of additional parking area, how many vehicles will the existing plus additional parking areas hold? It seems typical in the neighborhood to have no more than 2 parking places per property. We are concerned about the stage being set for this to become a commercial property of some type in the future. Will the rock walls on 3 sides simply support the parking area, or will they actually extend higher than the parking area? In other words, will the parking area itself be walled in, creating additional size and mass to the structure? What will the composition of the materials on the 4 to 8 foot tall sides of the retaining wall be? We are worried about the look of that structure and it's not being congruous with the remaining feel of the neighborhood. We understand that the parking area itself will have a gravel surface, which we support. A concrete parking area would be similarly inconsistent with the neighborhood. We appreciate the consideration of both the applicant and the Commission regarding these matters, and as stated earlier, would plan to issue a written opinion based on the answers to them if that is feasible. Sincerely, J. Barth and Chuck Cliette, 32 Still Street. And the last one, I would like to express my opinion to the HDC on the Still Street parking construction request. I confidently accept the HDC decision, knowing that the HDC regulations to protect our historic districts will be applied in your decision. Thank you, Philip Krebs, 45 Still Street.
Okay. Kyle, do you want to do the summary of facts now, or do you want me to have public comments and then we do summary of facts?
Let's do public comments and then,
okay.
yeah, we can jump into that part.
Okay. The first one that has a public comment, Ken, come up to the mic, introduce yourself and your address, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Ken Rundle. My wife, MJ, and I have lived at 21 Steel Street, just 2 doors down from Hatchet Hall, for about the last 15 years. We oppose the proposed parking lot for the following reasons. First and foremost, this large parking lot would not be in keeping with the historic nature of the property and the neighborhood. Hatchet Hall is known throughout the country. I mean, literally, it was just mentioned on Jeopardy. I don't know if you caught that just a few weeks ago. This 400-plus square foot parking lot would be totally out of character for the building. Number two, since the property is zoned residential, the current parking, which is 2 roadside parking spaces not on the street, is sufficient and more in keeping with what an historic residence such as this would typically need. Number three, I'm sure you remember that Joni Mitchell song, they paved a parking lot and paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Well, I know it's not going to be paved, but something similar is taking place here. You've heard about that large, beautiful, mature shade tree that was recently cut down. The parking lot would not be possible if that perfectly good, healthy tree had not been destroyed. Only a relatively small limb was protruding over the house. So if the parking lot is allowed to be constructed, instead of seeing a beautiful shaded lawn leading up to the north side of Hatchet Hall, our friend and neighbor Maureen Bettman would be forced to look at the huge concrete sidewall parking lot of a parking lot, 4 to 8 feet tall. So she's literally looking from paradise now at a parking lot. Number four, and it's not just Maureen that has to look at this eyesore. MJ and I, along with most of our neighbors, love to stroll along this beautiful, idyllic street. We get ecotherapy from it, and we don't want a huge parking lot juxtaposed next to old historic Hatchet Hall. Our street also attracts thousands of tourists each year because of the beauty and the tranquility, and both of these qualities would be diminished by this lot. The property owner has told us that he is not planning a commercial venture on the property, but the stage would certainly be set for that to happen in the future should he change his mind. We echo Maureen's concerns also about the environmental impact this would have of putting tons of dirt and concrete on the side of a hill that's sloping downward toward the creek. Heavy rains have recently caused a roadside, the cave-in of a roadside just up the street, less than a block away from Hatchet Hall. Erosion happens all the time. And we may need an engineering study to determine whether this parking lot would exacerbate the problem. We don't want to make it worse. And finally, a property owner's right to do whatever he or she wants with their property is not absolute. It's balanced. It must be weighed against other concerns, and that's your job here. And I appreciate your job because I used to work for the city in a paid position, and as a volunteer, I know it's tough. Nobody's going to like everything you do. Whatever you do, somebody's not going to like it. But you do have a tough job here. You have to balance the rights and concerns of the property owner against the preservation of our historic district, against environmental concerns, and against the effects it will have on other people in the neighborhood. So you have a tough job, but somebody's got to do it, so I'm glad you're here. Thank you for your time and for being a commissioner. Signed, Ken and MJ Rundle. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comments? At this time, then, public comments are closed. Kyle, would you do the summary of facts, please?
Yes. So the applicant at 35 Still Street is proposing construction of a 30 by 15 concrete retaining wall ranging from 4 to 8 foot tall with a stone veneer and filled with aggregate backfill to provide street level parking space. Summary of facts presented on the application. A dwelling structure did exist on that site from about 1914 to at least 1923. I've included those maps in your packet. No visible historic features remain of that structure. The project proposal meets the building code requirements for construction and setbacks. I did sit down with the public works, or the building code enforcement official. He did not feel that there was a need for a hydrology report, and the application that has been submitted, he feels is sufficient to meet code requirements. The project proposal does not affect the adjacent historic structure, also known as Hatchet Hall, and the project proposal can meet design guidelines as presented. Staff does recommend this application for approval.
Do I have a motion for discussion?
I so move we discuss this proposal.
I'll second.
Do you guys have questions of Mr. Drollinger?
Oh, he's here.
No, I'm just asking if they have any questions. Do you? Well, come on up to the mic and introduce yourself and state your address, please.
Okay, Troy Drollinger, 35 Steel Street, which is typically the Carrie Nation house.
Is that your address?
Yes, it is.
You live there?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I have concerns about this, and I'm wondering if we need to do a site visit.
You can make a
Well,
motion to do that if that's what
Can I
you
help
want
you
to
with
do.
any of your concerns?
Why do you need the additional parking?
That's outside of our
That's
purview.
not our,
Yeah, we can.
I didn't hear the
Why
end.
do you need the additional parking
And what, I'm sorry, what was
we
your
can't-
answer?
That's out of our,
out of our jurisdiction?
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
if you would like to do a site visit, you may make that motion.
I move that,
Do we need to, we have this motion to, we'll continue talking, but Ida told
Well,
us.
can I make a comment or two just about some of the letters? There are inaccuracies, there are exaggerations, and I'm just don't know where to begin. And I've been coming to Eureka Springs for 30 years. My children and I used to walk up and down Steel Street and play in Little Eureka Springs. I was involved in the Passion Play many years ago, and have been a minister traveling and speaking in churches all over the United States.
I don't want to cut you off, but when I ask about public comments, I
Okay.
mean, we're in the middle of a motion. So I can't take, we can do discussion, but I can't take his comments, right? Because we are in the middle of a,
That's a good question.
It's probably not within our purview, but I can't imagine with that much neighborhood opposition why someone would want to do this.
you know. What I need is the motion that was made for discussion and all. I guess we discussed, but we're not going to vote on that. So Debbie and Christine, could you remove your motions?
I remove my motion.
Yes.
And now if you want to make a motion for a site visit,
Okay, I move that this commission do a site visit at 35 Steel Street to view this proposal.
do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Christine made the motion for a site visit. Debbie seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So that one's 4-0 for a site visit. You can have public comments, but wait just a minute, okay?
Sure.
Go ahead and have a seat for a minute.
Thanks.
Okay, so we will get with, Kyle will set up the site visit, right? We have some commissioners not here this evening, so we'll have to notify them and get a site visit too. Is there a better time for you guys?
I can't do it tomorrow.
I'm open.
Okay,
Unless it was in the morning.
and we'll have to get with the others. I will be leaving probably Monday for a week. I got to go babysit again.
I could do Thursday morning or Friday morning.
I also could do both those days.
Susan? Okay, and then you'll get with the rest of, is that Thursday or Friday?
So I will be out all day Thursday.
Thursday morning, we can't.
Yeah. So I'll try and get it scheduled for Friday. And then just a heads up, I am out most of next week for APA conference also.
So it looks like Friday?
That's what it looks like.
Does that work for you, Mr. Drollinger? Is it necessary that I be there? No. Okay. I will get with the other commissioners and then be in touch with you, and we'll get something set up. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Administrative approvals by the city preservation officer. Minor impact projects include ordinary maintenance that does not involve a change in materials, new and replacement signs, alterations to non-contributing and/or non-historic structures, excluding major additions or demolition. Minimum impact projects that meet design guidelines. There are 4. You can go onto the website and they're all listed. Commission business. Our first one is minutes of March 6th. Was everyone, let me find the 6th, were we all here that day? The 4 of us?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we
we're all
can vote
here.
on that. Do I have a motion?
I move that we accept the minutes of March 6th.
I'll second.
Okay, Christine made the motion. Debbie seconded it for March 6th regular meetings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Okay, March 7th, which was regular meeting.
No.
Special meeting.
I mean special meeting,
Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
sorry. That's the part one we're correcting. And again, we are all here. Okay, so we can vote on that one. Do I have a motion for the 7th of March special meeting?
I move that we approve the minutes from the March 7th special meeting.
Second.
Debbie made the motion, Christine seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0. April 17th regular meeting. We're all there. So we can vote on April 17th. May I have a motion?
I so move that we accept the minutes of the April 17th regular meeting.
I'll second.
Christine made the motion. Debbie seconded.
Susan, sorry.
Susan, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Christine made the motion. Susan seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Discussion for forum July 31st through August 4th. Anybody discussion, or are we just leaving that on there?
I had it on there in case there was any questions that we needed to address. Everybody that's going has been registered. We have arrangements for pickup from the airport coming back. Still waiting for confirmation on getting us down there, but we can make arrangements as it gets closer. But that's all I had for an update on that.
Okay, and then discussion for camp October 3rd through the 4th in Hot Springs.
So they have opened up the registration for that. A couple of you have gone on and reserved a room. If you're interested in going, please let me know. I'll send an email out as a reminder, just so people can confirm. Let me know if you have already reserved your room. The commission will take care of it. the department will take care of it when we check in if you've already made that reservation. Otherwise, I can go on and make those reservations if you'll confirm that for me.
I've already reserved mine.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay. Our next meeting will be May 15th, 2024. Level 3 applications are due Thursday, May 9th. Level 2 applications will be due Thursday, May 2nd.
Sorry, I swapped those. Second for the level 3.
Second and the 9th. Okay.
Yeah.
So level 3 are Thursday, May 2nd, tomorrow. Level 2 are next Thursday, May 9th.
Thank you.
Agenda setting for May 15th meeting. Anything you guys want to put on the agenda?
No.
Okay. Now we are to public comments. Sir, you may make public comments. I'm sorry.
Regarding the tree, please understand that I consulted the city. I had inspectors come out. They examined the tree, and not only was it damaging my terrace that holds my existing parking up, but it was also leaning very much over my house. And there were also other trees on the other side that were dropping limbs and were also in risk of falling on my house. And recently, just prior to cutting this tree down, a tree fell from across the street and it pulled out my electrical system, my weatherhead, the meter, and everything. And I had to pay to do that. So trees do cause a lot of damage, and I felt like this tree was damaged. I did have the tree expert who works for the city and is recommended by the city came out, and he said, yes, it is diseased. It is going to fall, and I don't want it to fall on the house. So it wasn't my intention to do any damage to the environment. I love Eureka Springs. I love living up here. My kids love it. We love coming up to visit. I own a home in Texas, and I own this home. This is my homestead in Arkansas. I'm not an out-of-town investor. I'm retired, and I plan on retiring here. And I would like safe parking for my family. I have grandkids, I have children, and I have less parking than everybody on my street. And 2 parking
You guys, please
spots.
stop.
Oh, okay. Oh, 2 parking spots is not average. Phil, who wrote a letter, has 4, and then 2 side street. Robin, who lives up the street, has a 2-car garage, 2 parking, and then 4 side street parkings. The man on the corner, Flint, has a garage, plus he parks 3 cars in front of his house. And I just don't have safe parking. And I might add that recently my neighbors across the street who wrote a letter were approved to put in a parking area because they were parking on the street. And it's actually larger than what I'm asking to put in. And it was approved without any problem. So I'm not asking for anything more than what all my neighbors have. Actually, I just want 3 parking spots, which you'll see everybody has one. My neighbor next door has 3 in front, and on and on. Now, the limited person is across the street, but it's because they've landscaped part of it, but he could easily park 3 cars in there. So I don't think it's accurate to say that I'm trying to do damage. I'm not. It's going to be a beautiful rock wall. I wanted to do concrete because if you look at, when you go out on the site, you'll see there are 13-foot rock walls all along our street, and they are caving out, I guess you should say. Next to my house, my neighbor has a 12-foot retaining wall that is actually caving in and is going to fall on my house, and I invite you to take a look. So I wanted to do a concrete inner structure just for strength so that I don't have issues about rock walls deteriorating. And now, hey, I'm happy to do, if you don't want If you think it's inappropriate for me to put a cement wall that's veneered with stone done by a local contractor, then I'll just do stone. It's not a problem for me. If you'd like me to plant a tree or two, I do that too. It's not my intention to commercialize my property. I own the lot that I'm asking to park, and I own Carrie Nation House. And I love it here.
Dee, is it appropriate, can we ask him a question?
Not during public comments.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Since he's not going to be at the site visit, I was just curious about that 6-foot parking area that's already there.
Yeah, we've closed it for conversation. We can bring that up at the site visit. I can try and answer that the best I can. And then when we have the special meeting, yeah, definitely bring that up. Yeah.
Well, let me say that right now, I don't actually have parking in front of the Carrie Nation House. There's no parking on that property. And fortunately, I own the lot next door, so I'm able to park on the street. But I believe a parking city regulation parking spot is 9 by 18. Well, I don't even have that. So I don't have an official parking spot. And what I'm proposing is less. The entire old parking and new parking is less than the parking area that you just approved for my neighbor across the street. And I just don't think that that's reasonable, and I think it's very appropriate for me to want parking. You know, the average home in Arkansas has 2.5 cars. And I don't see why people who have more parking than me should limit my parking. So that's...
We normally allow 3 minutes.
Okay.
So I think we're over it.
Thank you for giving me time.
Since you didn't get in on the other, I didn't want to cut you real short.
I appreciate
because they're
that.
not limited. Or do we have any other public comments? Okay, if you come up and state your name and address, please.
Hi there. Hi, everyone. Name is Steph Gordon Glassford, 23 Hill Street. I want to clarify a few things. That I believe that you live in Texas and pay taxes in Texas.
These are public comments. You can't ask them questions.
But I don't think, as far as the neighborhood knows, we thought he lived in Texas and he paid, that this was just a secondary house that he was going to be renting out. So we'd like that clarified.
That's outside of our purview.
So, well, he brought it up. You asked him where he lived. If he lived at the residence, and he said yes. So we're clarifying that.
It's public comments.
This is just public comments. You have to make just public comments. We can't respond.
Jacob, the building inspector, came out to have a look. I want to clarify also that, he's not an arborist. He's a building inspector, and, he doesn't have a certification for that. So just clarifying that, too. The whole neighborhood feels like, well, it just happened before we even knew it was going to happen. We were shocked. It was a huge tree, and we're just there's just a huge empty space now. I understand we have parking issues around here, but that doesn't mean you go and cut down natural resources. So, and then say you respect the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to make public comments? Okay, public comments are closed. Commissioner comments. Susan? Christine?
None.
Debbie?
No.
Well, I'm going to say Happy May Day. I think had a beautiful day, so maybe May's going to be gorgeous. So thanks for everybody. Thanks, Kyle, for all the work you do for us. And director comments.
Thank you, everybody, for your time here. I do just want to say publicly that I am willing to read letters and stuff into public record for citizens that are unable to attend these meetings. I do ask that you be professional and respectful in wording those. Thank you.
Do I have an adjournment?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Christine made the motion. Debbie seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries 4-0.